chair now recognizes Mr. Gosar of Arizona for 5.
Okay, so if you want to talk about ping-ponging between a cogent, intelligent, well-mannered, straightforward, clear, concise case like AOC just made, bless her heart, and then we're going to go to the exact opposite end of the spectrum, which is fucking Gosar from Arizona, who is, like, if you think what MTG said was undecipherable, like, we'll see.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Chairman Comer and his team have done an outstanding job of uncovering the millions of dollars sent to Hunter Biden from foreign sources located in places like China, Romania, and Ukraine.
No, they haven't. They've all been part of the record for years. Does anybody think that nobody knew he'd worked with Burisma?
The Burmisha.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty obvious that the Hunter Biden's only...
By the way, Romania was great until they arrested Andrew Tate. That's why Romania made the fucking list, because they went against Andrew Tate, just on the Republican side of the aisle. On the right-wing side, the minute they arrested Andrew Tate for sex trafficking, they were like, fuck Romania, Romania's corrupt, even though this is literally, again, another version of reality where the rest of us live, where before Hunter Biden is involved in some place, it's complete ass, and afterwards, it actually starts to stabilize or improve.
Having for making money is the influence over his father.
Okay, that's the other thing. This is the way he makes money is influence over his dad.
Now, the only thing missing is direct evidence that Joe Biden knew and participated in these bribery schemes.
Okay, the only thing missing, I fucking love this dude right out of the gate. Thank you. Thank you. The only thing missing is direct evidence that Joe Biden participated in these bribery schemes. I would go so far as to say that there is no evidence that these were bribery schemes. I don't give a shit what you feel about investment bankers and investment traders and hedge funds and all that kind of shit. You may think it's all criminal and a Ponzi scheme and blah, blah, blah. But if what he's doing is a crime, then it's all a crime. And these guys clearly do not think that hedge funds are evil.
That is where you brave men have come in.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. These guys, they're not just here to show the money. They're showing the policy that was changed after the money went to Hunter. And they're going to show it. This is it. That's why they're here. Spoiler alert, that they never do that. They don't at all.
Their investigative efforts have the potential to uncover direct evidence
No, they don't. As a matter of fact, the IRS investigators around this are the farthest people in the investigation from discovering the reasoning behind something. As a matter of fact, the guilt of the crime, the ultimate crime that they are discovering, stops at the financials, not at the reasoning behind the financials. Nobody is asserting that these hookers had undue influence over Biden and his friends and fucking James and Shemp Biden and all that stuff. None of it. As a matter of fact, the IRS as an investigative body can't go any farther forward. Also, people are asking if he has Parkinson's or anything. He argues that he is healthy and has no physical maladies. So as long as he asserts that, I will just simply say I think it's Pervitin then.
Paid to play. And in some cases, it did.
Okay, in some cases it did. Let's hear it, fuckwad. Bring it up. Do it. It's your 5 minutes. You don't even have to ask a question. That's 45 seconds. What?
Yet they're very hindered from doing their jobs by the Department of Justice deep state.
No, they're not. The Department of Justice deep state, which was run by Donald Trump and Bill Barr at the time. But secondarily, no. As a matter of fact, all they can discover is that what your write-offs weren't actual write-offs. And they could say that you had money that you didn't report. That's it. They don't give a fuck. The IRS doesn't give a fuck why you didn't report it. I couldn't report it because it was a bribe. Like, that's not the point. As a matter of fact, you could say, why did you not report that money? I'm not saying. Well, then we're going to charge you with because you didn't report it. That's it.
As Mr. Shapley put it, quote,
Shapley. He's not shapely. I'm just saying for the record.
at every stage, decisions were made to benefit the subject of this investigation. End of quote.
No, they weren't. Passing around nudes that are not germane to a tax investigation is not made to benefit whatever the fuck.
That's Hunter Biden and by extension, Joe Biden.
Yes, by extension, because one is they're related biologically.
Now, these men are not political people. They're hardworking agents. The last thing they want to do is speculate.
What are you talking about? You're speculating about their speculations.
So I'm going to stick to confirming the most egregious examples of the DOJ's prosecutorial misconduct, abuse.
Okay, the most egregious, I'm glad we're going to get this stuff. The most egregious examples of prosecutorial misconduct. Here it comes.
And favoritism detailed in their testimonies.
Okay.
And leave it up to the American people to
Yeah, you draw your own conclusions. Do your own research. Ivermectin.
draw their own conclusion. Mr. Shapley, under U.S. tax law, taxes owed all are on all income received from legal and legal sources, right?
Legal and legal sources? Right.
Yes, yeah.
Hypothetically, if a person is subject to U.S. taxes receives $1 million for serving as a director for, let's say, an oil company, they would owe taxes on that $1 million, perhaps as much as 38%, correct?
If they're a U.S. taxpayer, yes.
Failure to declare the receipt of such income violates the U.S. tax code, correct?
Yes, it would.
Failing to timely pay the tax owed is in whatever amount violates the tax code, correct?
Yes, it does.
And the tax code has criminal and civil penalties for these violations, correct?
That is correct.
So now, hypothetically, if a person receives $1 million payment and then conveys 10% of that amount to another person, that person making that payment may have to pay a gift tax on that amount, correct?
Yeah. If
You know what? This is a good example of stuff. I like this isn't surprising to anybody, but let's see. Let's see. Yeah. So I'll show you what I mean. Whoops, get back here. Donald Trump reportedly hired the Gilgo beach murder suspects Rex Heuermann for a $205,000 project in one of his buildings. This would be, where is it? The 17th floor of Trump Building at 40 Wall Street. This is the building, 40 Wall Street. According to a October 2018 filing, when I don't remember who was president, but whatever. The project at the Crown Jewel Art Deco style building was projected at $205,017. And interestingly enough, you know what we keep hearing about Donald Trump is he doesn't pay contractors. Remember that? Donald Trump doesn't pay people. And yet, this guy got paid. Weird. All right. Of all people, the best people, I know them. All right. The filing names Heuermann as the applicant, while the Trump Organization's VP of Property Management, Steve Lafioska, is shown as the owner. This is the guy. He's a murderer. That his shoulders look funky because he's wearing a bulletproof vest because he's wanted for multiple murders. Now, the building is this 40 Wall Street building. There you go. He did this on the 17th floor and was fixing so $205,000. Now, when Donald Trump got a loan using this building as collateral, he asserted its worth at $589 million. $589 million. And when he asserted its worth to the IRS, he said it was worth $16.7 million. Yeah. He told the banks was worth $500 million. He told the IRS it was worth $16 million. Does that seem like something the IRS would have a problem with? And again, the allegation that these guys ultimately make is that Hunter Biden owed $2 million in taxes. He ultimately paid it, but he still owed $100,000. There's $100,000 in outstanding tax liability that because he struck a deal, he doesn't have to pay that $100,000 because the statute of limitations had run out. $100,000. $100,000. These guys worked on the taxpayer's dime for 5 fucking years to chase down $100K. And they're still doing it. Meanwhile, $100,000. Ultimately, even the outside, $2.1 million. That's the top end of the absolute most that Hunter Biden is alleged to owe in back taxes and that these guys are covered. $2.1 million. Donald Trump is either lying to the banks about $400 million worth of, 480 worth of money on this particular building, approximately, or he's 562 and change, because it's 16.7 or something like that he told the IRS. He's either lying about $500 million, $500 million to banks, which is bank fraud, or he's lying about that, $500 million plus to the IRS. $500 million plus. $562 million. There you go. Thank you. This is, I would argue, a much bigger case. And it's interesting that they didn't spend anywhere fucking near the amount of time, 5 years, to chase down $2.1 million, 2 of which they'd already gotten back. And this is about $100,000. It's about $100,000. Right now, that's all this is about. This isn't about foreign influence peddling at all, as much as they'd like to say so, because there isn't any evidence of it. Gosar, in all of his idiocy, has admitted as much.
If they say it's a gift, yes.
Yeah. Or conversely, the person receiving the money has to pay income tax on the money as well, correct?
If on the gift portion or
Yes.
on the income portion?
No, on the gift portion.
They would have to report the gift on their tax.
So we're supposed to go after the women he urges are prostitutes now? Is that what it is? Why aren't we throwing these women in jail and then sweating them?
Tax returns, but I don't believe it'd be taxable to them.
And then the failure to do is subject to criminal or civil penalties, correct?
Or so.
Yeah. Filing false tax returns is against the law, yes.
Yeah. Now, is there definite confirmation that all evidence on the Hunter Biden laptop has been reviewed by federal agents and prosecutors?
The prosecutor stated that evidence was withheld from the investigators. We don't know how much.
Did DOJ prosecutors allow your team to access the laptop?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, did the DOJ prosecutors allow your team to access the laptop?
What laptop?
The
DOJ prosecutors.
So when the laptop comes in, there are computer investigative specialists that review the laptop, and they create reports and pull stuff from.
And you were prohibited from looking at anything on the laptop, right?
We saw some, but not all.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Anything from the hard drive called laptop from Rudy Giuliani, if it's used to reach other evidence or attached to other evidence, or is the starting point for any part of the investigation, a first-year law student can get it thrown out in court. Everything. Fruit of the poison tree. There is no forensic background to that hard drive at all, period, end of story. There's copies of copies of copies of copies of copies. Now, during the IRS investigation, Hunter Biden turned over an actual laptop of his, not one that was allegedly left at a Delaware repair shop, an actual one. He turned his own shit over voluntarily. They use the laptop and laptop interchangeably between the one that Hunter Biden actually gave them that was actually his and the horseshit, Mackey, Giuliani, John Paul McIsaac one.
Is it normal for the DOJ to deny this type of access to investigators?
No, that's the first time I've experienced being limited to evidence.
Did it
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Not evidence. Have you ever been given access to materials gained through an illegal search warrant or an unlawful search? Have you ever? Have you ever been allowed inside, a person's property without a warrant and able to look at files that you cannot verify were there before you showed up? That's the question. Because a hard drive named laptop isn't a laptop.
Assistant Attorney Wolf collaborate with the data on the laptop?
Did she
collaborate the data?
corroborate? Oh, corroborate. I wouldn't know.
Okay.
No.
Now, I guess my question comes back. And
To what's the difference between the word collaborate and corroborate? Does anybody know?
the reason I went down this rabbit hole is that
I'm happier in the darkness and in the ground with the other mole rats.
is it your conclusion that you were interfered with and that those that interfered with you are as guilty as those creating the problem?
Huh?
Are they accessories to a crime? Is what I'm.
Are they? Yes. Ask if you can assert that Bill Barr and everybody working under him in 2018 is as guilty as Hunter Biden. And go.
Getting to.
Well, I would agree that there were investigative steps that were definitely obstructed by DOJ that I'd never seen in my 14 years, and just honestly just makes no sense. We wouldn't want to collect all of the evidence available. I can't.
Yeah, I would, for the record, again, I don't know why I have to fucking bring this up again, but there are a couple of types of evidence as a true investigator you don't want to go anywhere near, and that is evidence you can't verify and evidence you know will be excluded because of the lack of a search warrant, an illegal search, or if you think it's going to get there. You don't want it to touch your fucking the evidence pile that you're actually making, because if it taints it at all, you have to throw the whole fucking thing out. That's why. That's exactly why.
Opine on the second part of your question.
Gotcha. Mr. Ziegler, did the DOJ prosecutors deny your request to look into the famous, quote, "I am sitting here with my father" text from Hunter Biden? Did they allow you to obtain location information to see where the text was sent from?
So I know it was an issue that came up, whether we can get the location data, and I know that was a conversation that I would have had with the assigned prosecutors. I recall them saying to me that, how do we know that he's there? How do we know that that's true, the statement that's being made there? And then I said, well, we would get the location data. So as a part of my normal investigation, that's what I would do. And what I can tell you is I know I didn't do it. I don't know if the FBI ever ended up doing it. It was kind of like a let's wait or I need to think about it, I guess, is the proper response.
Gotcha.
Okay, a couple things. What they needed to think about and what fucked this whole thing up is what he's asserting in the conversation evidence of the crime about not paying taxes? Does it have any relation to the investigation they are engaged in? So therefore, do they have the right to use that or file it as part of their, or would be excluded as unrelated material and prejudicial information put into this? And then if it already on its face as languaging is just a guy yelling in a business deal, which is not a crime and doesn't relate to a direct crime at all, especially on what they're investigating, which is, did he get money? Did he pay taxes on the money he got? That's it. That's your fucking job. That's it. That's the one thing. Anything past that is beyond the scope of your investigation. So if you go beyond the scope of your investigation and you take that WhatsApp message, I'm sitting here with my father, and if this deal isn't done by tonight, fuck you, we're going to make your life hell because my dad's sitting right next here. Okay. None of that has anything to do with whether the money he made was paid, did he pay taxes on it? Nothing. So going further than, involving that text in the case for any other reason than to try and dirty up Biden and Hunter Biden at all, the only reason, you would include that is for that reason, because, again, the IRS does not have the right to judge how somebody talks to their business partners or whether or not that's a real threat, or has no right to engage in whether it's a real threat. And if it was, can you imagine the language that would be criminal going forward that they would be able to look into? Every relationship argument you have would be germane to an IRS investigation into whether or not the groceries you bought or the relationship you had was real or not from that point forward. Whether you're, for any case, that's what it would result in. The slippery slope on it is insane. So beyond that, there is nothing in that asserts that the money was for, an influence peddling or what have you. Even if it was, again, the IRS didn't give a fuck if the money was for a bribe or not. It was a gift, it was a bribe. They don't have to prove that. All they have to do is prove you didn't pay taxes on it and you have the money. Anything beyond that is beyond the scope of their investigation. If they start digging for it, that's when it becomes political. And once it becomes political, Hunter Biden's team can go, this is a fucking witch hunt. They went after this stuff for this particular reason. They discovered things that they didn't have the right to even look into, fruit of the poison tree, throw it the fuck out. That's how he got a sweetheart deal. By the way, the reason he got a sweetheart deal, the reason, and I don't think that he did, but he got a reasonable deal and he was able to plead shit out and pay without having to pay a fine, is because of this dickhead, Shapley, Comer, and Jim Jordan. That's why. Because if they'd have taken it to trial, all of their actions would be viewed by a judge as massive overreach. And specifically in this case, if you went and got the location data for a message that has nothing to do with your case, has no bearing on whether or not he's going to go to, he did or did not pay taxes on something. Except to say, by the way, I guess, is that any money that they were talking about was for a deal that they were working on, whatever that was. And it was, in this particular case, the CEFC deal was about an Alabama natural gas plant that they were working on. That's where James Biden came in. That's what they were going to build. And then CEFC, it turned out to just be a fucking honeypot. And they were like, fuck you, and they got out. And that's why the deal never happened. But while they thought it was actually happening, and he was calling their bluff and saying, look, you fuckers, don't mess with me or you'll regret it, that part of it was still part of the deal. And let's say this money had come in that had gone towards later building that plant, he would have had a decade, 10 years to use that money. So there is no point where they can go and look up the location data and it would be within the realm of their investigation at all. And the only way it could is if they had seen Joe Biden's taxes, they saw what property deeds he had and his financial disclosures, and there was an enormous mismatch that matched money flowing in. And there is none. None. It does not exist. There is no magic bank account like Trump's Chinese bank account. None of that. Nothing.
My time is up. I yield back.
Gentlemen's time's expired.